So,
Oh, well, okay. Well, they can do that themselves. You don't have to do anything for them to do
right,
that.
but I'm going to record it too for
Yeah.
everybody.
I had that message. Is it recording on? And I clicked OK that you already sent.
I don't know. Anyway, people are coming, so let's wait a couple more minutes and
Mhm.
see who else shows up.
Okay. I haven't received it yet, Michael.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble accessing it.
Okay. You mean accessing your PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'm accessing it on my screen.
Okay.
Uh,
Morning, Bob. For sure.
Morning, Bob. Morning, Elizabeth. I assume you're with us, someone. Good atmosphere.
Voice is on.
Hi, Anna.
Hello. Hi, Bob.
Well, why don't we get started? I'm sure people are going to continue to come, but Paula, why don't you do the introduction?
Okay. Um, it is my pleasure to welcome everyone today for another program of the Love Your Neighbor. By the way, my name is Kola Wale Olani. I'm a co-chair of the Love Your Neighbor Cooperation Circle under the United Religions Initiative. And of course, it consists of individuals from diverse backgrounds and regions. We are united by a common goal, and the goal is to foster love and compassion towards all beings, including plants and animals. Our circle's mission centers around countering hatred and promoting harmony in the world through prayer and acts of kindness and understanding. You can also call our group an international group based on the universal principle of loving our neighbor, which is a core prerequisite for peace and harmony to prevail on earth. People from all over the world gather here on Zoom on Fridays at this time, and we discuss ways of putting our love your neighbor mantra into action and also join together for group prayers. Our Friday meetings give us an avenue to connect, share experiences, and collaborate on various projects aimed at fulfilling our mission. These Zoom meetings serve as a platform for fostering a sense of community and solidarity among the members, despite our geographical distances and diverse background. So, if you would like to be on our mailing list, you could leave your name and email in the chat, which will be on the right side of your screen. Thank you very much for listening. I welcome you all once again to this program, and I believe very strongly that it's going to be robust, educational, insightful, and of course, our mission to have a world free of nuclear weapons will eventually prevail on Earth. Thank you very much. I yield the floor back to Carol Woman.
Well, hi. I'm the other co-chair of the Love Your Neighbor group. We're a cooperation circle under United Religions Initiative, which I assume everybody here is pretty familiar with. It was started by Reverend William Swing in 2000 for the purpose of overcoming religious strife. Uh, our guest today, our speaker, is Michael Ramos, he is from another cooperation circle, Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons. And Michael is a co-leader of that group, which was also started by Bishop Swing, along with a number of notable people, such as Gorbachev, Schultz, who was the Secretary of State at that time, and so forth. And also some of the people who are here right now, including Monica Willard. I'm so glad to see you. Anyway, so Michael is going to be talking about choosing life in the shadow of Hiroshima. And this is a lead up to Hiroshima Day, which is put on every year by the Voices for a Nuclear Free Future. So before I turn it over to Michael, I'm going to ask Monica, if you're with us, to say the nuclear prayer, which opens every meeting of Voices for a Nuclear Free Future.
I am
Monica,
here, Carol. I just have to get my, I'm on my phone. I'm sorry. And I needed to put on my video.
well, I can share the nuclear prayer so everybody
I've got
can
it.
see it. Here we go.
Okay. Oh, good. The beginning and the end are in your hands, O Creator of the universe. And in our hands, you have placed the fate of this planet. We who are tested by having both creative and destructive power in our free will turn to you in sober fear and in intoxicating hope. We ask for your guidance and to share in your imagination in our deliberations about the use of nuclear force. Help us to lift the fog of atomic darkness that hovers so pervasively over our Earth, your Earth, so that soon all eyes may see life magnified by your pure light. Bless all of us who wait today for your presence and who dedicate ourselves to achieve your intended peace and rightful equilibrium on earth. In the name of all that is holy and all that is hoped. Amen.
And
Thank you, Carol.
Amen.
okay, Michael, you're on.
I just need to let you know, Michael, I never got anything from you.
No, I wasn't able to share the slides. I'll share slides after the gathering, and then Carol can distribute them. Okay, good day, everyone. I'm coming to you from upstate New York. My name is Michael Ramos. I'm with Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons, and I'm very grateful to Carol for your leadership and your connecting voices to the Love Your Neighbor Cooperation Circle. And thanks to all of you for your prayers and faithfulness and leadership around the world over these years to express and live out the meaning of love your neighbor. So I'm grateful to each of you who are here today, and also to my Voices friends who are with us. This presentation is entitled Choosing Life in the Shadow of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Advancing the Moral and Spiritual Imperative of Nuclear Abolition. I'll speak for about 22 minutes, and then we'll have some time for questions and discussion. So thank you. In the face of nuclear weapon states failing to fulfill their treaty obligations, let alone their moral ones, to enhance the prospects of life for their residents and citizens, a higher power is being drawn out of us, civil society, religious people, and people of goodwill and conscience, to honor and mutually respect one another, our communities, and people of all nations in the earth of which we are a part, and for which we collectively are accountable. This call is the call to take action from the core of our being in defense of life, to choose life over death, grounded in our shared humanity. It is a call to act mindfully for the rights of future generations to thrive. Finally, it is a call to seek the light of the source of life, spirit, compassion, core being, and conscience towards a commitment to human security as the fundamental criterion toward preserving all life on the planet. The 81st anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, August 6th to 9th, 2026, provides the moral and spiritual opportunity and mandate to orient our minds and hearts toward a world free of nuclear weapons. The memory of the horrors of the first atomic bombing and war, coupled with the testimony of all who have endured generation after generation the effects of atomic and nuclear weapons usage, testing, and production, may motivate the remaining nations to sign and ratify the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, or TPNW. Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons, a cooperation circle of the United Religions Initiative, has initiated Nuclear Prayer Day worldwide on August 6th and the Global Days of Prayer and Action from August 6th to 9th as a time for prayer, meditation, reflection, study, and action in any religious, spiritual, community, and personal context. Collectively, we may call on the powers within us and beyond us such that the necessary transformation takes place and the moral arc of the universe might bend toward a just peace founded on human security, a world disarmed from the threat posed by nuclear weapons. Where we stand today is that there are more than 12,000 nuclear weapons in existence around the world possessed by 9 nuclear weapon state nations. The US and Russia hold 90% of all nuclear weapons. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists that the doomsday clock, marking the point of no return from a nuclear weapons conflict and possible annihilation, is the closest ever to midnight at 85 seconds before midnight. This suggests an urgency not seen since perhaps 1983, as previous guardrails such as bilateral nation-to-nation treaties fall by the wayside and nuclear weapon states continue to modernize and grow their nuclear weapon arsenals, putting to the side the pleas by the nations in nuclear-free zones in the Non-Proliferation Treaty meeting of April and May of this year for nuclear weapon states to fulfill their commitments under the treaty to nuclear weapon elimination. Meanwhile, 100 nations have signed and or ratified the treaty, really something to celebrate, on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. The non-nuclear states are increasingly speaking with one voice, demanding action toward the treaty's framework for prohibition and elimination. The voice of the Hibakusha. Once more, it is the Hibakusha, the survivors and descendants of the use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, who speak from the scars that they bear and the pain in their bones about the moral and spiritual duty to not have nuclear weapons used again and to work for their abolition. I share from my journal on April 26th of this year. About 250 people gathered today in front of the New York Public Library to say with Hibakusha, who traveled from Japan and Korea, never again Hiroshima, never again Nagasaki, never again nuclear weapons. Most of the people present were from Japan. The average age of Hibakusha, who survived the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, is 86 years old. As I reflected that this is the same age as my mother, I realized again the clarity from their personal suffering passed on through the generations and the moral urgency that they carry forth as they bear witness to the truth of this moment in human history. Hiro Hamasumi, the Secretary General of Nihon Hidankyo, the winners of the Nobel Peace Prize, said, "Never, never can anyone else experience the horror we have. We human beings cannot exist with nuclear weapons." He later testified at the NPT meeting, "Having been given life in exchange for death, never a day when I will stop working, never a day will I be comfortable until the number is 0. A survivor from Nagasaki who was 1.5 years old when the bombing occurred there and noting how she was carried around in a backpack said, never again atomic bombs, never again other uses of atomic bombs, not in the world. For each life impacted by the bombings of August 6th and August 9th, 1945, 81 years ago, grandparents, parents, siblings, children, aunts, uncles, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren have also been affected. The Hibakusha's pilgrimage to New York City was to listen and to speak at the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons Review Conference beginning the next day. A speaker mentioned that this is a crucial point for the treaty, as well as for the historical movement of peace and justice. Various groups, labor, cooperatives, youth, and Hibakusha emphasized their 81-year fight to abolish nuclear weapons. They sang a poignant song that, while remembering hometown burned bodies and buried, also gave the assembly hope. Their smiles of unity spoke 1,000 words. They persevered in their campaign of illumination and demands for change. In our identification with them, we too grow in understanding and conviction. As a speaker said, we are not inheriting Earth from our ancestors so much as borrowing the Earth from future generations. A high school student representing a Japanese youth group concluded the rally. She was a peace messenger who was picking up the mantle from the Hibakusha. She said, "It's not that we can't imagine what happened, it's that we don't imagine enough." Edified and inspired, we processed with drums rolling, singing, "We Shall Overcome" down 42nd Street to the Isaiah Wall across the street from the United Nations. There, partially obscured by the scaffolding, the etching shouted from the concrete stone facade, "They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not make war upon nation, neither shall they know war anymore." Led by the ebullient Hibakusha, the message was no longer obscured. We could see clearly what must be done. Absent any action toward progressive disarmament by the nuclear weapons possessing nations, including at the most recent NPT review conference in New York, each nation is violating the core principle highlighted by Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev in 1985 and reiterated by the leaders of the 5 original nuclear weapon states in 2022, that, quote, "a nuclear war can never be won and must never be fought." They also reaffirmed their adherence to Article 6 of the NPT and the ultimate goal of a world without nuclear weapons with undiminished security for all. In the middle of 2026, increased investments in expanding, modernizing, deploying, adding mutual military and nuclear defense treaties are moral affronts which must be challenged in all legal, humanitarian, civil, and international fora, including the TPNW implementation process. A threat to human rights. Today, our nuclear war preparations tear at democracy by eroding the human rights that are universal among peoples and civilizations and should be among nations: the dignity and inherent worth of every human being, the right to earn one's living, to raise one's family in peace and to thrive, the right to vote freely and to participate in civic endeavors and social and political processes that affect them, including free speech and assembly, the right to education and healthcare, the right to free exchange of ideas, development resources, food and basic necessities for life, scientific knowledge for the common good, etc. All of these are encoded by institutions based on the rule of law, as well as treaties of cooperation, the Declaration of Human Rights, the United Nations, International Criminal Court, and joint efforts such as the Sustainable Development Goals and Paris Climate Accord, as well as the NPT and the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Nuclear weapons expansion and threats are anti-life and promote death through the promotion of fear, intimidation, domination, and greed. Rather than continuing to perpetuate an ideology of security by means of a negative freedom, that is, freedom from enemy terrorists, for example, civil society needs to highlight a positive freedom for these universal values in the context of community building and international exchange based on dialogue, tolerance, and peace with justice rather than violence. An alternative way is possible. A hymn by Harry Emerson Fosdick in 1930 goes, "Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the facing of this hour." The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us that hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. The ecumenical movement within Christianity and the interfaith movement aspire to a unity through difference among spiritually oriented people that counters the hate, fear, and violence that, taken to the extreme, can lead us to war. As stated by the United Religions Initiative, our purpose commits us to promoting enduring daily interfaith cooperation, ending religiously motivated violence, and creating cultures of peace, justice, and healing for the earth and all living beings. With the power to destroy the world through nuclear weapon usage and war and climate change, people of spirit have a vocation and conscience to embrace and embody the peace that is a gift of God for us and for our planet. This means planting the seeds of peace, not war, of love, not violence, of solidarity, not othering those not like ourselves. Religions and spiritual practice throughout the world center certain values that guide the formation of who we are as human beings and shape our outlook as we sojourn on the earth. These include human dignity. All lives are sacred and precious. Compassion. Compassion is both at the essence and the through line of the power of the divine working through us, in us and around us, for life in the face of the powers and principalities of death. Solidarity. As Dr. King noted, our destinies are intertwined. When one suffers, we all suffer. We are especially mindful and must come alongside the Hibakusha and victims of nuclear weapons tests over the decades from around the world. Therefore, to alleviate suffering, remove fear, and promote understanding are at the heart of a peace with justice that results in an authentic freedom for all. Truth and beauty. The poet John Keats said, "Beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all you know on earth and all you need to know," from Ode on a Grecian Urn. The open-hearted pursuit of truth and appreciation for beauty open us to hope in the co-creative possibilities for our planet. Truth and beauty remind us of the living energy of the earth and our own innate goodness and creative capacity. At this hour, when the upholding and affirming of basic humanizing values are eroding, we must choose how we respond to these religious and spiritual foundations and weave collaborative actions for a future that is more loving, without exclusions, and reflects God's dream for us. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. opposed the building up of armaments and the proliferation of nuclear weapons. He saw the reach of our compassion and solidarity as a universal and critical to any nation promoting democracy and human rights. Every nation, he said, must now develop an overriding loyalty to humankind as a whole in order to preserve the best in individual societies. This call for a worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concern beyond one's tribe, race, class, and nation is in reality a call for an all-embracing love for all humankind. When I speak of love, I am not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I am speaking of that force which all of the great religions have seen as the unifying spirit of life. Beloved community is the manifestation in reality of what Dr. King pointed to as the bending of the arc of the universe toward justice. It is a vision for how the world should be, a North Star, a horizon of light toward which our living and life energy strives. In choosing life, we choose love, as well as its catalyst. Beloved community is a process, a way of being in the world, a way of living life fully in relationship with oneself, one's family and neighbors, one's local context, society, ecosystem, and our world. Beloved community is relationship. Relationship that breaks down barriers, borders, walls, fences between people. It is relationship that is not transactional, where one can take, borrow, steal, dominate, or humiliate another. Rather, it is transformative, where change can emerge through the living of values of abundance and honesty with intention that brings healing, wholeness, equity, and personal and systemic justice into the light and into everyday experience. Peace through nonviolence overcame the fruit of loving justice and reconciling mercy in the life of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and so many courageous leaders in the civil rights movement. Today, we can overcome the threats to democracy and human rights posed by nuclear weapons and live into the ecology of shalom, that is our hope and our destiny. Going forward, a young adult writing on the concluded NPT review conference, Mitsutake Ikeda offered a vision as we go forward. In one corner of this year's atomic bomb exhibition at the UN, a photograph was displayed showing the 1 million person peace march held in conjunction with the UN's second special session on disarmament in 1982. The surging passion of the crowds back then continues to convey the immeasurable power of civil society solidarity today. I hope that one day I will find myself amidst the swell of such a massive disarmament peace march, witnessing the moment the world takes a giant leap toward the abolition of nuclear weapons. Even amid harsh realities, these days in New York allowed me to hold fast to a certain unwavering hope. I was there in 1982 in New York City. The nuclear freeze movement culmination marked that, just as our common humanity brought us together, the only true security is human security. It was one of the greatest gatherings for peace in our human history. So a world free of nuclear weapons is possible. We can draw courage from events such as these. Hope moves to the rhythm of life. Choose life so that we and our descendants may live. We are called to pray for peace and for a nuclear disarmed world. As we approach the anniversary of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we are encouraged to pray in all ways. All manner of words, gestures, rituals, embodied practices, meditation, contemplation, worship, silence, music, art, with conviction and intentionality. Group gatherings, 2 to 3 people, song circles, joining a local or universal Zoom or stream. We draw upon spirit as we experience spirit breathing in us as consciousness and conscience that says an alternative way of being in the world is possible. As Ambassador Musi Hailuf of URI from Africa said recently, when we come together, our collective hopes and prayers can inspire change and encourage leaders to pursue peace. Our awareness grounded in collective hope leads us to action. Through joyful resistance, artistic expression, protests, speaking with our legislative representatives, public forums, vigils, and community gatherings for reflection and celebration, we are given this moment to act, to embody the seeds of peace that we hold, and to preserve democracy and work toward the elimination of nuclear weapons. All of this is an ongoing process. We are invited not just to pray on one day, August 6th or August 9th. Rather, prayer and action, 2 sides of the same coin, are meant to be a way of life. Let me make one further observation about prayer. The image I most like for prayer as a way of life is that of pilgrimage. We are on a journey home toward a greater unity with all beings. In the vision of at least one religion, the Christian, humans are both embracing and in search of God's kingdom, God's profound peace or shalom on earth as in heaven. There is a destination in terms of encounter with the divine. Still, pilgrimage suggests a process where each day and each encounter, each community commitment to each deep relationship is equally important as the goal. As Thich Nhat Hanh says, peace is every step. My community from Columbia University in New York City convened a pilgrimage in 1983 at the height of the arms race to call for an end to nuclear weapons. It was called the Plowshares Pilgrimage from the Pentagon on the Feast of Pentecost to the Pantex Nuclear Weapons Factory in Amarillo, Texas, where we prayed and fasted outside the fence from August 6th to August 9th, and it was hot. We stayed and had potluck dinners at churches throughout the walk through Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Oklahoma, and finally Texas. We learned that on pilgrimage, the holy is not just when we arrive home with God or we have achieved the beloved community. Rather, it is the daily, seemingly ordinary experiences and encounters, as well as the surprises that buoy us, all offer the possibility of our own transformation and that of our world, peace within us and peace all around us. As the prophets and nonviolent peacemakers attest, first and foremost, it is we who have to change. Prayer is trust, knowing that humans created nuclear weapons, and strengthened in the divine wisdom that we can imagine the day when nuclear weapons will be no more. Prayer is also faith in life, confident that in living fully human and fully alive, God is walking with us at 3 miles per hour. Finally, prayer for the abolition of nuclear weapons embraces a hope beyond hope, a hope moving us through grief to gladness, a hope that cries out from the core of our humanity, as Thomas Merton says, our hope is not in what we can do ourselves, but that in the end, God will overcome. Here and now is where we can allow ourselves to be led by the Habakasha and others who have suffered from the atomic bombings and nuclear tests. It is they who have chosen life when death appeared to have the final word through annihilation, first of their cities, homes, businesses, families, and loved ones, and now potentially all life on Earth. My experience at the NPT review conference was inspired not by nuclear weapon states' refusal to act in good faith toward a comprehensive nuclear weapon disarmament, but by the Habakasha, who shed light by their witness on what must happen, with a great turning of hearts at this critical moment of Earth's story. Let us follow their lead as we approach Nuclear Prayer Day and the Global Days of Prayer and Action. The August 6th and August 9th anniversaries are coming soon. Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons and the United Religions Initiative invite all people of goodwill to draw strength from their deepest resources of hope, faith, and community to work together for peace and safety on our planet. Resources and participation information for Nuclear Prayer Day are available at voices-uri.org/Nuclear Prayer Day. Here you will also find a participant form where you can note events you are preparing for and be included as a partner for Nuclear Prayer Day and the Global Days of Prayer and Action. We are blessed to be a social people who belong together on this earth, God's earth, not only to coexist, but also to generate greater possibilities for abundant life for all. Each of us has a part to play in making a fulfilling life possible for our generation and the next generations. With your permission, I conclude with a prayer. Source of life, you have given us this moment to preserve, promote, and protect life. You have invited us to dissolve harm, oppression, and the resort to war and potential nuclear war with the power of love and compassion. Such a calling we receive knowing that we must ask a power beyond us to be present for such a time as this. We need your guidance to strengthen us and to see clearly how to proceed. Grant us wisdom and grant us courage for the facing of this hour. In humility, we remain confident in your abiding in our world. May we be given the hands, hearts, minds, and spirits to be constructors of peace, to turn swords into plowshares, and to transform the fog of atomic darkness into radiant stars of beloved communities of cooperation without the weapons of ultimate non-existence in our midst. We ask you this in all the languages, cultures, and expressions that flow through us. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you
Amen.
so much, Michael. Very, very inspiring talk. Very moving. We're going to open the floor now to comments, questions of Michael or anybody else. And I just want to encourage you to use the react button at the bottom of your screen. It's a little hard to raise your hand if you have something to say so that we don't all talk at once. I just want to say one comment before other people do. Take my privilege as moderator here to say I'm 85 years old. I was born 4 years before the bombs dropped. And I actually do remember when that happened. My mother was a history teacher, and she said the world will never be the same. And it felt different. The fog of atomic darkness had entered our world, and the sense of hope for the future was dimmed because it was so clear that we could destroy everything. So we need to get back to that state of innocence, hope, and clear view of the future and what needs to be done. And to do that, we need to get rid of nuclear weapons. So I'm going to call on Celeste. Thank you for raising your hand, Celeste.
First of all, thank you for organizing this, Carol. And thank you so much, Michael Ramos. It was a wonderful text you read. And I would love to have your permission to have the text and translate it into Portuguese, our language here in Brazil, and to spread it. It's so wonderful. And I am here with the trustee from Latin America, Elianildo Nascimento, from URI, and we will have a meeting in Brazil with all cooperation circles. We have around 18 cooperation circles, and on the 6th, we will have this meeting to pray together, and so for this wonderful movement in the world. Thank you.
Yes, that would be wonderful. I'll share it with Carol right after, and you can feel free to share it. I'll share the slides as well, which may illuminate further the message. Obrigado.
Any other comments or questions?
Or discussion among anything that came up for people. You're all leaders and leading vibrant lives wherever you are.
I'd like to emphasize the TPNW, the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. The old treaties are gradually being cast aside. This treaty is fairly new. It came 2018, 19, Michael. Mm-hmm. Something like that. And it comes from the non-nuclear nations, mm-hmm. whereas the former treaties came from the nuclear nations. But this is a plea, basically, on the part of the non-nuclear nations to get rid of nuclear weapons. This treaty has been signed by 100 countries, and it is in full force as international law, which means that all countries with nuclear weapons are outlaws. Mm-hmm. And so part of our job is to get our countries that do have nuclear weapons to get rid of them and sign the TPNW. And there's an international organization called ICAN, ICAN. You can just click on that. And it's got instructions for getting your city or your county to back the treaty to prohibit nuclear weapons so that we can work locally to get this treaty into force.
Yeah, I think building awareness about the treaty, and what I find most interesting about it is that it really is inspiring action, because people take hope in the fact that 100 nations have now signed it or ratified the treaty, and it's a wonderful mechanism that actually prohibits nuclear weapons and establishes a framework for the nations of the world, including the nuclear nations, to disarm. And so it's also a way of connecting people around the world to continue to work on that and to talk with our own nations about being engaged. And I note that Monica is reminding us to sign up to participate in Nuclear Prayer Day on August 6th. And so please do that. And you can see the link on, I think Paul Andrews sent it out on our website. And so there'll be a number of other events where you can pray together and connect with others who are concerned about the situation and working to change and transform it.
Sylvia, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I have watched on NHK World, which is the PBS of Japan, a documentary on survivors of that nuclear bombing. And to see the physical distress, the emotional distress, the ostracism, the lack of respiratory wholeness is enough, I think, for any nation to look at what happened and to say no more.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, Michael.
Yes.
What? Did
Thank
you
you. Absolutely.
have a comment?
Well, Kola has his hand up, but after Kola, I'd like to say something.
Cola, go ahead.
All right, thank you once again, Michael, for that illuminating presentation. So I would want to ask that whenever we try to go about treaties and discuss on ways to prevent or to abolish the threat of nuclear weapons, is South Africa always carried along? Because I believe, in my opinion, it is a country that has actually shown the way from transitioning from a nuclear threshold state to not having any nuclear weapons again. And if they are carried along and they try to douse the fears of certain countries, because I know certain countries always want to use that as a deterrent and for them to avoid being attacked or whatsoever. If they are given a good place, I think they should be able to provide the leadership and to be able to give more input as to how other countries could transition from a nuclear threshold or a nuclear held state to not having any nuclear weapons. That's just my question.
Cola,
I
has
I
South
agree.
Africa shown any sign of leadership in that area? I mean, that is a wonderful example of a country
Oh,
giving up its nuclear weapon.
yeah, I agree. And South Africa demonstrates leadership at each of the meetings I've attended, both of the TPNW and the NPT. South Africa is very outspoken and highlights the Palindaba Treaty, I believe is what it's called, the nuclear free zone um, in Africa. And so that leadership is there. And so encouraging those nations that are very active and outspoken, and then calling on nations who have not acted or who are working to keep nuclear weapons expanding. We need to address those as well. But I appreciate South Africa's leadership, and thank you for pointing that out.
May I go now?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, everyone that's here, and Michael. I, as a U.S. citizen, I extend a humble apology for the inability of our country to understand the ramifications of nuclear proliferation and of the use of weapons. And I apologize to the Hibakusha and their descendants for the harm caused by the bombs. In Tucson, the Veterans for Peace is very, very strong. And when you look at nonproliferation, there's a lot of tentacles to look at. So we have Raytheon here that builds guidance for missile systems. So there's a weekly protest outside the gates of Raytheon led by the Veterans for Peace every week. Mm-hmm. In addition, we're the home of a couple, Jack and Felice, who have a publication called The Nuclear Resistor. Have you ever heard of that, Michael? The Nuclear Resistor? Yeah. Very prolific work on understanding the full ramifications of nuclear reality, because it's far beyond the weapons. It's about the damage and harm to native lands, to the extraction of uranium and other kinds of minerals. It's about, it's just far beyond just the weapons themselves. And it can be overwhelming. So I appreciate the focus on hope, and that there are things we can do in small steps, in small ways, including prayer. And I always like to remember that a nuclear disaster was avoided by a Russian who refused to believe what he was seeing on his screen, that there was an attack coming from the US, and refused to believe it, and looked into it and found it was a false imagery, and did not launch. Against orders, did not launch. And that's the kind of courage. Unknown caller. That's the kind of courage that we need to continue to bring forward, is to not buy into in any way fantasy about it, but to look with the depth of reality and real science, maybe I could say, at what it is all about. Anyway, I'm going on a little bit too long, but do you have a comment about what I'm saying, Michael?
You've said it beautifully. I think we in the United States have a special accountability to work for the abolition of nuclear weapons. And I've held that view for 45 years. And I'm inspired by many people who have spent their life in nuclear weapon resistance over the years and have suffered greatly. And they've been in and out of jail for their nonviolent civil disobedience and other actions. And so it's very important that we speak up. In the United States, one of the things that peace activist Jim Douglas said many years ago, who started the Ground Zero Center for Nonviolent Action outside of Seattle, which still exists today, that we who are residents of the United States are the most powerful people in the world, but we don't use our power. We don't use our voices. And so we have I'll just say we all have a responsibility. In the U.S., we also have a special responsibility to live that out. And thank you for pointing out the harms that have been caused, the continuing harm, especially around the land, in the U.S. and elsewhere. I will also say that we also have to recognize how change occurs as well, because the people who have suffered and have been impacted by nuclear weapons are providing significant leadership for the change that we want to see. And so we need to follow their lead as well. Change often comes from the grassroots. It's not necessarily the leaders will be moved if we move them. And I think that that groundswell of support needs to be cultivated through cooperation circles, through other groups, and at the local level. Through local actions all over the world, we can create global change that we want to see.
Elizabeth, you have your hand up.
I'm from Austria. Our country is too small to change international politics, but we can pray. And we have a peace bowl since many years in my town. At the moment, it is standing in front of a house of elderly people. All of them were born at the time of around the time of the nuclear war. And I will invite them on Saturday, August 9th, for a special prayer for a world without any weapons. Not only nuclear weapons, but all weapons should be destroyed, and a new time living together should start. Thank you. And thank you for your work and for the inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing and planning.
Gary.
Hi there. Haven't been around lately. Sorry about that. That's the way depression works. But I was just talking about the company working where she lives, and it seems to me that these companies want to deal with this stuff because they make money. Lockheed, all of them. It's kind of the military industrial complex, and they're all gung ho. I don't know if you mentioned the Saudi Arabia deal. I think it's $30 billion going there, and we have a short memory because we know that the Saudi Arabians killed Adam Khashoggi, and there's a conspiracy theory about them financing Osama bin Laden and the 9/11. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But we had before this, Donald Trump ripped up the agreement that Obama had made. We had inspectors going in. We had the Gulf of Hormuz was open. So he's kind of now trying to deal with this, and where Obama sent some millions of dollars, Trump will have to send 30 million. So I don't know. Seems like a waste, and our prices are going up, and it's not good for the world. Certainly not good for Americans, but that's kind of where I'm at, unfortunately.
Dwight Eisenhower spoke about the military-industrial complex and as a theft from the basic needs of people in our country. And we have not only a military-industrial complex, we have a nuclear weapons industrial complex, and that's been played out recently in the war-making capability within our country, and those companies that have been mentioned already are at the forefront of it. So, when I was in college, so I set up a table on the middle of Columbia's campus for nuclear people to sign up to support the nuclear freeze movement on every Wednesday at noon from 12 to 1 with professors in the university. And at the time, I took a class from a professor named Seymour Melman, who wrote a famous book called The Permanent War Economy. And he was prophetic. He was truthful. He was speaking to the reality of what he studied, but he was also prophetic in terms of that's what we have. And so the seeds of destruction that have been sown require the seeds of love, compassion, cooperation, and friendship that we are cultivating together through the cooperation circles of URI, through our prayer, and through our action. So we have to cultivate that spirit that helps to guide us and to make the change. So your assessments are right on. Thank you.
I just want to say that Nuclear Prayer Day has been expanding and bringing in more and more groups. And there are now thousands, I believe, Michael, of people who are joining on that day. So it is a huge group effort to be praying together. And I personally believe that when many people pray together, the prayers are heard and effective. And so we really must continue to use prayer from our deepest being to try to reverse this horrible thing that's happening. Okay, I think Cola's next and then Gary.
Okay, once again, thanks for the many contributions. I also think that we should equally strongly look at nuclear power plants because the technology you use to develop a nuclear bomb is very much similar to the one you use to build a nuclear power plant. And since the Russia-Ukraine war started, we've seen the many instability it's caused and the threat of we having radiation due to the bombings and all that. So I am thinking very strongly that it's best that both go hand in hand together. Yes, we're calling for a world free of nuclear weapons. We should also be raising advocacy against the building of nuclear power plants, especially for emerging economies like sub-Saharan Africa, who have not yet had enough energy and they're looking to diversify. So I think that is worth also considering. Thank you.
Gary?
Yes. The other day I read somewhere where we have enough nuclear arsenal that we could wipe out Russia like 10 times. And I think Russia has like 6 times in their thing. So it's just, the expense, the unnecessary thing if you're going to do it. And the other thing I think is, we as Americans are really hypocritical because we were the only ones that ever used the bomb. So there's a threat out there, but we didn't care about the threat. That's why Oppenheimer did his thing. My wife's uncle was out there back in the day. So, again, that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just mention the chat has been very active, so I just want to mention a couple of points. One is that Anna pointed out that Austria has been the champion for disarmament, and that is so true. Austria has provided leadership and support for other nations too to develop their ability to work to elimination of nuclear weapons. Also, Kazakhstan has as well. They eliminated their nuclear weapons and they've suffered immensely through the tests that have occurred over many years when they were part of the Soviet Union. And so that is very significant as well. I mentioned Paul Andrews' comment, the defense industry needs to be our immune system, not our main identity. So true. And Monica notes that most religions have policy against nuclear weapons. And so, of course, our faith and the different religions, we can draw on those roots. And that's kind of the message of Voices around Nuclear Prayer Day, draw on those roots to heighten or lift up our prayer and to do that together.
You asked for a picture from the screen of the people. So do you know how to do that? Can you do that? Or do I have to do that?
What is it you're saying?
So Solette is asking for a screenshot of the people who are here.
Oh, no, I didn't ask. But I had another quick.
Solette asked for it, and I am wondering, am I the one to do that?
Morgana is taking pictures.
Oh, Morgana's doing that. That's wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Morgana. If anybody would like to be on the mailing list for Love Your Neighbor, please put your email in the chat and we'll add you to our email list. So you'll get all notifications. We do meet every Friday for discussion and prayers. As you can see, we have members from all over the world. And so we do address issues from all parts of the world, as well as among ourselves as people, and try to build a circle of love and create a love wave to counter the hate wave that has been sweeping the planet. So, and I have one further comment about nuclear weapons, which is the main problem is awareness. We never see anything in the election, for instance, in the campaigns about nuclear weapons and the need to get rid of them. So spreading awareness through forums like this, I think, is extremely important. And again, I want to thank you, Michael, for it's really a wonderful presentation, and I hope there's a transcript that we can share.
I'll share it right after the meeting. So thank you. And you can share it with the group and others. Let me also point for further inspiration. There's a video that Monica shared the link to on YouTube by Pato Banton and his wife Antoinette for Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons. It's very inspiring, and you can enjoy that, and you can search for that as well.
Could that be shared again? Because people who came late would have that disappeared from the chat.
Let's see. I'm sure if Monica's still there, I can send a link. I can send the link with my email to Carol.
Thank you.
And I will share it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, our is about up. Anybody else would like to say something in closing? We have somebody coming who's just missed the whole thing.
Well, I'm very grateful to each of you and thank you for being part of this conversation. We all grow and learn together, and we're fortunate to have each other to choose life in the face of death. So
I think the word that Carol used, inspiring, is a good word for your talk and for this meeting. And I thank you.
Yes, I agree.
There's a note in the chat. Robert wants to say something. We've got two Roberts. Which one is it?
I just wanted to make a comment real quick about the teenage young man that said that we shouldn't we don't imagine enough about how terrible it was, and I think that's very important to get to the children, and instead of shielding them away from these kind of realities, that we should tell them about what happened in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and show them the pictures and show them the movies to young children. Don't shield them, because it's such a terrible thing that we show them. But thank you, Michael. It's such a beautiful thing to have you in this world with us and doing this wonderful, beautiful thing that you've done. And keep up the good work.
thank you so much. Monica has resent the link for the Pato Banton song, so you can see that now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Oh, I can't get into the chat.
And yes, RCC will participate in Nuclear Prayer Day. I guess it'll be a couple Fridays from now. We meet on Friday, so it'll be just look at the calendar here, the August 7th. So in between the 6th and the 9th, we'll dedicate it for Nuclear Prayer Day. All right. And one other thing, if you want a wonderful description, a horrifying description of what went on, I would really recommend John Hersey's book, Hiroshima.
Terrible.
It's just very graphic.
I read that as a young person. It was terrible.
But you're right there.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was
Thank
very
you.
good. We
Thank
enjoyed
you,
it.
everyone.
Goodbye now.
Welcome.
Thank
Glad
you.
we had you
Bye-bye.
today.
Blessings to all.
Thank you so much.
Blessings.
Blessings.
Blessing.
Blessing and Karen.
Please join us.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. We'll see you at Nuclear Prayer Day.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Mhm.